Welcome, guys. This is Ebenezer, Heru, right? I'll let you
Sure.
introduce yourself and what you do as well.
Okay. Diaspora daughters, thank you so much for this opportunity. As you know, okay, my name is Ebenezer Heru, and I'm into the teaching of African and Kemetic history. I know some persons who said he's teaching Kemetic history and he's teaching African history. How does it relate? According to Cheikh Anta Diop, for us to understand African history, we have to link it to the history of Egypt, which is Kemet. Okay, the previous name for Egypt. I'm a content creator. I'm also an educationist offline. So these are the things I do. And as you see, I also have my own page, just like Diaspora Daughters, creating content and making sure that our Black people wake up from their slumber to understand that our history did not start from slave trade, but started from greatness.
Absolutely. I think what we are going to uncover here is the truth, right? Nothing but the truth. We're going to hit them with the truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So obviously you're from Nigeria. I would like to know more about colonization in Nigeria, what is not in our history books, right? Because that's the missing link, right? And also,
So,
we need to understand the tactics that were used to divide us and the psychological game that is still being used today to divide us so that history doesn't repeat itself, right?
sure. Okay, actually, if you look at colonization in Africa, you come to understand that it is economically motivated. It is economically motivated because before the Berlin Conference, which precipitated the colonization of African countries and the partitioning of African countries among European colonial powers, there is what we call imperialism. And imperialism, which was motivated by capitalism, is different from colonialism. Now, if you look at imperialism, imperialism is simply means the economic and political control of the resources of poor and backward countries by a wealthy, rich, developed country. Now, what I want us to understand here is simple. Colonization is a phase in the development of imperialism. So before colonization, we had the first phase called slave trade. After slave trade, colonization. After colonization, we have neocolonialism. And the last which we are in today is called globalization. Now, globalization, a lot of you would think is about bringing the world into one global village where you can call somebody in America, where you can send goods to America, bringing the world into one global village. No, globalization, the core of globalization is economic exploitation because they will tell you to liberalize your economy so that they can come in with their multinational company to exploit the resources in your country. That's why if you look at the book written by late Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of Ghana, okay, neocolonialism, the highest stage of imperialism, you see that these are phases, these are stages of imperialism. Now, basically, today we are looking at colonization as a phase of imperialism. You see, we have to understand that there was an economic downturn in Europe. The European Industrial Revolution have already started in Britain. So they needed to exploit the resources in third world countries in order to improve the economy of their countries. Now, there is a man named Karl Marx. Karl Marx said that there will be a class struggle between the proletariat and the bourgeoisies in Europe, and it will lead to the fall of the capitalist system in Europe. Now, the European bourgeoisies, the European capitalists, the owners of private property, they had to work with the European politicians in order for them to come to Africa to exploit the resources in Africa to improve the working conditions of the poor people in Europe in order to avert the revolution that was supposed to occur in Europe. Now, for them to achieve this, they had to use colonization. Now, before colonization, there was the Berlin Conference, which started in 1884 to 1885, okay? The Berlin Conference in Germany, which was spearheaded or chairman by Otto von Bismarck. Now, it was where they partitioned Africa among European countries, in order to exploit the resources of of African countries. Now, let's come to Nigeria. The people who colonized Nigeria, who are the British. Now, when the British came to Nigeria, they came with the aim of exploiting our resources. But remember, before they came to Nigeria, they were in India. In India, they introduced their own pattern of colonization called indirect through colonial system. Okay, now the indirect through colonial system was first introduced in India because India was a colony of the British government. Okay, so when they came to Nigeria, they introduced a system called indirect through. Now, what is indirect through? For us to go straight to the point, indirect through is a British political colonial system where the customs and the traditions of the people are used to rule the people. In other words, the British will not come directly to rule you. They will pass through your kings. They will pass through your cultures and your traditions to rule you. That is the aim of the British colonization, or that is their colonial policy, the indirect through colonial policy. Now, when they came to Nigeria, Nigeria, during that time, Nigeria was made up of the northern, western, and eastern region. We have the northern region, we have the western region, and we have the eastern region. Now, the northern region is basically Muslims. Islam is dominant there. The western region is Christianity. Christianity is dominant there. The eastern region is also Christianity. Christianity is dominant there. Now, when the British introduced the indirect through system, I want you to understand that the indirect through colonial system was so perfect for the British, where they were able to exploit the resources of the colonies. In the northern region, which was dominated by the Hausa people, Diaspora, I hope you're with me.
I'm listening. We are listening. Are you guys listening on the comments? Just type on the comment if you can hear him clearly and you get what's going on here.
Yes, because I want them to follow. I want
Absolutely.
them to
we wouldn't know how whether you guys are following if you don't let us know. So just type on the comments so that Ebenezer, you can see the comments, right?
Yes, I can. Now,
okay,
for me,
perfect. You guys, you need to be more active. You need to share. You need to tap. Okay.
For me to narrate what I was saying, the pattern of colonization that was used by the British to colonize Nigeria was called indirect through colonial policy. The French, they had their own. It is called the policy of assimilation. Now we are looking at Nigeria, and Nigeria was colonized by the British. Now the system was indirect rule, and as I said earlier, indirect rule is nothing else but a British colonial system whereby they use the existing culture of the people to rule the people. They don't come directly to rule the people, okay? Now, when the indirect through colonial system was introduced in the north, and I said earlier in Nigeria, the north was basically basically dominated by Islam. So when it was introduced in the northern region, it was a success. Now, there are some reasons why it was a success in the northern region. Are you with me?
Yes.
Now, one of the reasons is the use of traditional authorities. Now, one of the factors that contributed to the success of indirect rule in northern Nigeria was the use of the existing traditional system of administration. Now, the British recorded a huge success, mainly because they used the highly developed traditional system of administration that was already in existence in the northern region, which is basically all about the indirect rule system. Now, another reason why it was successful was the autocratic nature of the emirs. Then in Nigeria, the north was dominated or was ruled by people they call the emirs, the spiritual and the political head of Islam in the northern region. Now, I want you to understand that it was a success because the emirs were dictators, they were autocrats, okay? And the emirs were very influential and they had unlimited powers to the extent that they could sentence to death any of their subjects who disobeyed them. So the British had to pass through this kind of people to rule over the subjects, okay, their emirs, and so it was a success.
One second, Ebenezer. Sorry for breaking your flow, guys. Please type which country you're from, and then try and connect the story with your country as well. Comment so that we see you're following, and ask questions as well. Go on.
Now, another reason why it was successful in the north was religion. And the religion, as I told you earlier, was Islamic religion, right? Yeah. So you see, Islam was the dominant religion the people in the north had, okay? Islam, by its nature, is a conservative religion, and as a result, helped greatly to make the people of the area to be more obedient. That created room for the success of the system of indirect rule. Now, the last of it is the submissiveness of the people. You see, This made the people of the northern region to accept the indirect rule system wholeheartedly without questioning, because the people were submitted to their autocratic leaders. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So the system became a success. But there was a problem when the system was introduced in the western region. Now, the western region in Nigeria is dominated by a people we call the Yorubas. And I want us to understand that the Yorubas are very educated people. I'm not from Yoruba, but the Yorubas, they are even older than Adam and Eve. The Yorubas are they are older than Cain and Abel. They are older than Abraham. They are older than all the biblical characters, both in the Torah and in the New Testament. They are older than all of them. In fact, when it comes to the science of astronomy, when it comes to the study of the movement of the stars, the moon, the planet, and the sun, our African ancestors, apart from the Dogons in Mali, the Yoruba people in West Africa, who are basically in Nigeria, okay, they are one of the people who are so great, who are so, in fact, we call them the astutes of astronomy. They are astute of astronomy.
Ebenezer, they stole that knowledge, like the computer, technology that they have now from the Yorubas, right?
Of course, not just from the Yorubas, from a people we call the Dogons. The Dogons are in Mali today. Today, if you look at, I'm sorry, I'm trying to digress, but the point is that if you look at astronomy in African university, astronomy is basically a child's play today. Many of the department of astronomy in African universities, they are not accredited because nobody is thinking of how to study the movement of the stars, the moon, the planet. We are thinking of how to look for food to eat. We are thinking of how to get a job. Okay, there is no time to acquire knowledge, but our African ancestors were deeply into this for thousands of years, even before a place known as Greece, even before a place known as the Roman Empire came into existence. In fact, the Europeans were not even known in history. Diaspora daughters. The Europeans were not even known in history during this time when the Africans were studying the movement of the stars in the science of astronomy. Why am I saying this? Look at Europe. The name Europe was named after a black woman named Europia from Phoenicia, okay, who was kidnapped by Zeus because this black woman was so beautiful. The black woman of Phoenicia was so beautiful. She was a princess. Her father was a king. Okay, they took Zeus, kidnapped this woman, or let me use the right word. He eloped with her and married her. So it was from there they got the name Europe, from a black woman like you looking at me right now, from a black woman, Europa. So all this time, Europe. In fact, the only time we heard of the Europeans, I know this one will surprise some persons. Could you believe that the only time we knew of the Europeans in history was around 833 BCE? Why did I say so? 833 BCE was the first time the Europeans started writing. And the first book of the Europeans is called the Iliad and the Odyssey. And the Iliad and the Odyssey was written by an European boy named Homer. 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 Okay? Homer. Now, why did I say that was the first time we knew of the European? Because in history, people are known only when they started writing. And the first time we heard of the European was when they wrote about the Iliad and the Odyssey. But that is probably, if you allow me, that will be a second segment of this where we are going to talk about the civilization of great people. Now, let us still look into the colonization of Nigeria. Now, I'm done with the northern parts, how it was a success. I mentioned use of traditional administration, autocratic nature of the emirs, okay, religion, which is Islam. I mentioned submissiveness of the people. These were the reasons why it was successful in the northern part of Nigeria. Now, let us look at the western part of Nigeria. You see, when the system of indirect rule was introduced in the Yoruba land, which is the western part of Nigeria, okay, the Obas, because that is the name of the kings in Yoruba land in the western region, the Obas were used like the emirs in the northern part. I told you, indirect rule, they will pass through the rulers, isn't it, to rule the people. Now, the system did not prove as successful as it was in the northern region. Now, there were a lot of factors why it was not as successful in the western region as it was in the northern region. One is limited power. The Obas, they had limited power. Okay, they don't have this autocratic power as the emirs in the north. So the people were able to question their government. They were able to question the ethics and ethos of colonization. Okay, now another reason is education. You see, education played a significant role in the partial success of the system of indirect rule in the western part of Nigeria, which was dominated by the Yorubas. Now, during that time, the system was introduced as in this intellectual system, which was introduced by as into the Yorubas, what made the Yoruba people to question the system, because the people were educated, and you know, when you are educated, you have the tool to question what is right and what is wrong. So they were able to question the intellectual system. Another reason why it was a less success was because the people were not as submissive as their counterparts in the north. You remember that in the north, they were submissive to their emirs, but in the west, they were not submissive, okay?
Okay.
Now, another reason is religion. Remember, Islam made the people to submit blindly to their emirs, but Christianity made them to question the ethics, the etiquette, the moralities of colonization. So before this colonization or this colonialism will come to the Yoruba people, those people were already Christians. So they were in a position to question the ills and the morality and immorality of colonization. Now, these were the reason why it was a partial success. Now, the last one, indirect rule in the eastern part of Nigeria. Now, if we have some people on your page who are Nigerians, they will bear with me that there's a place we call the eastern part of Nigeria dominated by a people we call the Igbos. The Igbos are also another great people in West Africa. Okay, the Igbos, they are also another great people. These are people who are so intelligent. They are so intelligent. In fact, the Igbos and the Yorubas are older than Adam and Eve in the book of Genesis. They are older than all the biblical characters in the book, in the Old and the New Testament. Now, while the indirect system was a success in the north, a partial success in the west, it was an abysmal failure in the east, because these people, they are very radical. Now, remember that I told you that indirect system can only be successful when there is the existence of an existing traditional ruler, isn't it? Because they will pass through that traditional ruler to rule the people. But guess what? When indirect was introduced in the eastern part of Nigeria, there was the absence of traditional rulers. Because the Yoruba people, the Igbo people, they practice what we call acephalous democracy. Acephalous is spelled Acephalous, acephalous democracy, where there is no head, but there are institutions that are established to execute the day-to-day affairs of the society, okay? But there is no supreme head as it was in the north, as it was in the west. It was a decentralized system, okay, where power is shared. So there was nothing like a king. There was nothing like an emir there. Now, that was one reason why it was a failure, absence of traditional rulers. There was another one again that led to the failure of this British colonial system. It is called the appointment of warrant chiefs. Who are the warrant chiefs? Now, let me shock you. When the British introduced the indirect rule system in the eastern region, so they saw that there were no chiefs, okay? There were no rulers. So what they did was that they started appointing some persons as chiefs. Guess what? These people that they appointed as chiefs were outcasts. They were people that were outcasts, that were rejected. They were banished from the community. It was these people that the British made chiefs and gave them power and called them warrant chiefs. Okay?
And
now,
Ebenezer, one
yes.
second. This is the same people they push as chiefs, as if like in every African community there were chiefs, which is not true, right?
Mm-hmm. Now they say that. Now let me just digress a little. They say that our kings and our chiefs, they sold us to them. A real African will never sell his fellow African as a slave to the white man. That is a blatant lie. Those chiefs, those kings that they say that sold our people to them, these were people that they single-handedly appointed as chiefs and kings to work for the British, to work for the European slave masters. Okay? So when they said, is it not your people that sold you as slaves? There is no historical evidence anywhere to show that a real African enslaved his people. These were people that were single-handedly handpicked. Now, let me go further. The first one is absence of traditional rulers. The second one is the appointment of warrant chiefs, people that were seen as outcasts. So the people rebelled. Now, these warrant chiefs, I'm still on it. These warrant chiefs that were appointed were autocratic. They were maltreating the people. They were even taxing the people. Because in Igbo land, they are not used to this British taxation system. They are not used to it. So they were taxing the people. Later, the women stood up and rebelled against the warrant chiefs. In fact, that was even the last factor that led to the collapse of the indirect rule system. It is called the Aba Women's Riot, where some group of women stood up to rebel against the totalitarianism and the dictatorship of the warring chiefs, unleashing havoc on the people. So the women, they stood up, not the men. Black African women in eastern Nigeria stood up and rebelled against the British colonial system of indirect rule. That was what led to the
Ebenezer,
total. Yes.
yeah, that is so crazy because I've never heard of that, and I'm sure a lot of women have never heard of that. So it just
Yes.
shows
It is called.
how powerful an
It,
African woman
it
can
is.
be, or is
Yes.
actually.
It is called the Aba Women's Riot of 1929. You can look it up online. The Aba Women's Riot of 19... Aba is spelled ABA, Women's Riot of 1929. So it was because of the warring chiefs, their character, their dictatorial tendencies towards the people that provoked or that precipitated these riots where the women stood up and fought against the British colonial system. I don't know if you are, as in, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, we're
Now,
getting you.
another reason why the system failed was because the people were not submissive. They were rebellious. Look at the riots. The women rebelled. That's why the system failed. Another is religion, Christianity. The people were already Christian, just like the Yorubas who were Christians also who rebelled. Okay? That was it. Another reason is education. Okay, the people were educated. The only people that were not well educated, that the system was successful, was the Northerners. That's why when I started, I said the system was very successful in the north, a partial success in the west, and an abysmal failure in the east. Okay? So this was the indirect rule system. Now, another thing I want to let you know is that the indirect rule system is divided into two. Sorry, the colonization in Nigeria was divided into two. We have the central administration and we have the native administration. Okay. Now, the central administration was headed by the colonial governor. Okay. He was appointed by the Secretary of State for the colonies, who had the power to remove or redeploy him. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Now, the colonial governor was responsible for administration of the whole country and was accountable to the imperial government in London through the Secretary of State. Okay? Now, that is the central administration level. Now, the second level is the native administration. Now, the native administration, we must understand that the colonial administration instituted a system of native administration in the protectorates, the province, and the districts through the indirect rule system. So you have to understand that the native administration is basically the indirect rule system for the communities, while the central administration is for the cities, which was headed by the colonial governor. This was the British pattern of colonization. It is called the central administration, which is for the cities. Then we have the native administration for the communities, for the villages. You understand? Yeah. And in these communities and villages, we have the indirect rule system there. So that is colonization. But I want us to understand one thing, that inside colonization, they integrated the economy of Africa into the international capitalist system. This is another very important thing we must understand. This is an intellectual discourse. They integrated the African economy into the international capitalist system. How did they do it? Now, when I say integrate, they changed the African economy from a primitive communal system of an egalitarian system of equality to capitalism. And you know what is capitalism? Characterized by inequality, private property, and individualism. Okay? So, you know, in African society, we are basically people who deals with family system, egalitarianism, equality, and togetherness. But when the Europeans came with capitalism, they eradicated our family system, our egalitarian system, and they introduced individualism, where it is based on your as an individual purpose. Everything is based on individual. Now, when they introduce colonization in Africa, what they did is that they had to integrate our economy into the international capitalist system. This was also one of the reasons why the African economy is poor and backward. Now, let me shock you with one thing. One of the reasons, or one of the factors that led to the integration of our economy into the international capitalist system, was monetization. You know, Africa, we had our local currency, like the cowries, okay? The cowrie is another form of means that we use for as exchange, medium of exchange. So when they introduced the colonial system, they had to introduce their own European money. For example, British West African countries, we have the pounds. Now they had to monetize this currency into the African economy, whereby African farmers had to pick up paid jobs where they will be paid with the European currency. Okay, now the economy of Africa is now based on European currency. So import and export will be based on what? The European currency. That is one factor. They have integrated our economy into the international capitalist system. Another one is what is it called? Infrastructural development. Now, during colonialism, the Europeans, they did roads, they did railways, right? Mm-hmm. This colonial infrastructural development was not meant to develop us as Africans. Never. It was meant to facilitate the exploitation of the resources of African people to Europe. So all the roads and railways that they did is to facilitate the resources that they are exploiting from Africa to Europe. Not really for our own betterment, but for the exploitation of our resources to Europe, to make it easy, to facilitate it, to make it easy.
Ebenezer, let me just cut you short a bit. Most of us in school, we just learned about the good things about like colonialism and the infrastructure, and we saw it as a good thing because that's what we were told. We weren't told about the exploitation part of it, right?
Mm. Okay. You see, that is, they told us that that the reason why they brought colonialism is to give us salvation. Just like slave trade, that without the colonial masters, we will still be in the bush, hunting animals, climbing trees like monkeys, black monkeys. These were the things that they were using to keep us mentally indoctrinated and brainwashed. You see, diaspora daughters, we have to understand that the Africans have already started civilization for thousands of years before anybody known as Abraham came into existence, came into the picture. Africans have already started what we call the Nok civilization, N-O-K, the Nok civilization. What is the Nok civilization? The Nok civilization was a kind of civilization where huge sculptures were made from terracottas. These were the sculptures that the British people took to their British Museum in Britain. They took to their Louvre Museum in France, in Paris. But they say we are diabolic. They say that our ancestors are not crafted. Our ancestors are not experienced. There is what we call the Benin Wall. The Benin Wall in Nigeria, in West Africa, is older than the Chinese Wall, 10,000 years older than the Chinese Wall. It was the British who destroyed it. The Africans were into the science of architecture and engineering, where we were able to build the first skyscraper in the world. And as I speak to you, diaspora daughter, the first skyscraper, which we call the pyramid, is still standing till today in a place in Egypt we call Saqqara. This pyramid is older than the biblical Tower of Babel. There is no evidence of the biblical Tower of Babel, but we have evidence of this pyramid still standing in a place in Egypt called Saqqara. It is called the Step Pyramid of Zoza. It was built around 2780 BCE.
That's right.
Around the Egyptian Third Dynasty by a great black African Egyptian named Imhotep. It is still standing. Our African ancestors were so great. That was why they gave civilizations to the Europeans. The Moors went to Spain, they went to Portugal, they went to southern France, and they gave civilization to the Europeans. Europeans were not well educated. They don't even have a standard education. European women, they bathe once a year. Today they come to tell black women that they are the cleanest, that they are the most neat people in the world. No, they bathe once a year. It was African women from Ethiopia, from Nubia, from Egypt, who taught them how to bathe regularly, using soap invented in Africa, inside of Africa. They don't even have a standard education. The oldest university that is older than Oxford and Cambridge was built by our black African ancestors. It is called the University of Salamanca in Spain. Our African ancestors built 600 public bathrooms for the Europeans. They don't even know. In fact, the Catholic Church said that anybody who go into the science of numbers, which is numerology, is an antichrist. It was black Africans who came with the science of numbers. Europeans, they don't use numbers. They use Roman figure. It was Roman figure that they were using. It was Africans who introduced numbers to them, Africans and the Arabs. See, the professors, the teachers, the lecturers, in fact, the first teachers of Oxford and Cambridge universities, they sat on the feet of our black African ancestors in Spain, in the University of Salamanca, to learn how to start up a university system. This is a recorded fact. Go and get that book by Ivan van Satima, When the Moors ruled Spain. There you're going to see how our African ancestors, in fact, this was the second civilization we gave to them. The first civilization we gave to them was when their people like Socrates, people like Aristotle, people like Pythagoras, the one you're calling the father of mathematics, but he's not the father of mathematics. He's not the owner of the Pythagorean theory in mathematics. The Africans were so good in buildings. You know, if you want to go into building, structure, architecture, you have to be good in mathematics and calculation. The Pythagorean theory was already in the Egyptian mystery system, where our African ancestors, they used it to build the pyramids and the structures you see in Kemet, the former name for Egypt, which means the land of the blacks, before they changed it to Egypt. Okay, so the thing we must understand is that our African ancestors were so sophisticated in knowledge that when these people, they came into Egypt, when they came to Ethiopia, when they came to Nubia, we were able to accept them and educated them. But guess what? There is a book, I gave you that book written by George G.M. James, Stolen Legacy, written in 1954. Do you know that none of the Europeans that came to Africa ever graduated from the Egyptian mystery system? They never graduated because the knowledge of our African ancestors was so deep. We are the original children of God because we are the only people connected to nature. These people are artificial people. That is why they are destroying nature today, destroying nature to build artificial intelligence. Let me tell you, you cannot find all these things I'm teaching. AI cannot give you all these things we are teaching. Artificial intelligence in Google can never give us these things that we are teaching. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously today was just to touch on colonization, because it's very, very important for us to know where we are coming from, right?
Yes, because I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'm sorry, diaspora and daughters. It is an unforgivable mistake. I repeat, it is an unforgivable mistake for the Europeans to say that we had no civilization before they came. That was the reason why I digressed.
It's a very big lie, 100%.
Yes.
It's a very big lie. But what I would say, Ebenezer, right? The good news is you people like you've done a lot of work. So people are getting it, right? And there are those who will not get it. So we're not going to dwell on those who are not getting it, if that makes sense, right? The reason why I called you here is for you to tell us, you know, what you know about colonization, right? Because we didn't have that in the real history in our history books, right? So that's why, yeah, and it's so amazing. You've really done a good job.
Okay. There was one thing before colonization in Nigeria. We had institutions of government, but we don't know them as the Europeans call them, okay? Now, all those concepts, all those basic concepts you see in government, like separation of power, where political power is shared among the three levels, three organs of government, the legislative organ, the executive organ, and the judicial organ, all those things were already practiced in Nigeria, but we did not call them the European name. So when they came to Nigeria, they said that we had no organized government. Before they introduced colonization. Now, in the northern region, they practice what we call a centralized system of government. Remember, I told you when Indirectu came to the northern region of Nigeria, the emirs were dictators, right? They were autocrats, right? So that was a centralized system of government where all the powers that existed in the society are concentrated in the hands of one supreme authority known as the emir. Okay? That was it. Now, in the Western region, they practice what we call decentralization, a decentralized system of government where power is shared among different organs of government. We have what we call the Oyomesi, we have the Alaafin, we have the Ogboni courts, okay? We have the Ariana Kakanfo. These are terms in Yoruba language in the western part of Nigeria where power is decentralized. What about the Igbos in the eastern region? The people who stood up to fight against the British colonial system and destroyed it. Okay, they have what you call the same thing, decentralized system, where power is shared among different institutions like the age grade. We have what you call the Umada. Okay, we have what you call the Okpara. These are different institutions where power is designated to. So when they came, they said that we don't have a system of government. That is to say, we are lawless people. But no,
That's
we are
not
not
true.
lawless people.
That's not true.
Exactly. The first law, they will tell you that the first law in the world is the Ten Commandments. That the Ten Commandments is the first law. But where did Moses got his Ten Commandments? Moses got his Ten Commandments from the 42 principle of Mahat, a black woman like you, the center of justice in Egypt. I have not killed, I have not lied, I have not stolen the property of another. Moses copied it and turned it to thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not steal. The Africans had the first documented laws known as the 42 laws of Mahat. So what is this talk about? We are illiterates, that we are not educated.
Ebenezer, so they plagiarize that, right? And they do exactly what the Ten Commandments says we should not do anyway. So why then should we follow their religion, right?
These are people who have taken themselves out of nature. There is a great professor they call Kabakameni. He wrote a book, The Shibaka Stone. Okay, it's a very powerful book. Now, he said that these people have taken themselves out of nature. That we are the original people of God. We are the original people of God. We are the only people that are closer to God. Okay, so they are so bittered. Do you know that when they came to Africa, the Greek color of God, the Africans have already made black. The Africans have already made black the color of God. So when they came to Africa, they were standing under the sun to see if they would turn black. They could not turn black. The Romans, when the Romans invaded Egypt in 30 BCE and ruled for 600 years, they were standing under the sun every day to see if they would turn black. They could not turn black. Rather, they were getting burnt by the sun because they don't have enough melanin like you, diasporan daughter. They don't have enough melanin to protect them from the brutality of the sun. So what they did was that they started plagiarizing our spirituality, and that was where they invented their religion. Christianity is a religion that was plagiarized from African spirituality. Judaism is a religion that was plagiarized from African spirituality. Now, which one will you go to? Spirituality or religion? Spirituality, because that is the origin.
Ebenezer, this is a question people ask, right? They ask, where were our gods, and why were we easily? By the way, people don't tend to realize how much we fought, right? Like what you've just told us about the women in Nigeria who fought, right?
Yes.
So I need you to connect it to what is happening right now, Ebenezer, because people don't even know what is going on. There's an awakening happening right now. And obviously, we are ruled by the stars, right?
Of course.
So can you explain a little bit of what is going on? And for people who have those questions, because we really have to go down low to those kind of questions, even though we know the answer, Ebenezer, not everybody is that advanced, right? Not everybody has been doing the work.
What's
the simple question, Ebenezer, the simple question, where were our gods when that happened?
Of course. We are people that are so natural. We are natural people. We are people that we are not slave masters. We are not invaders. We don't impose things on people. So that was why when people were coming to us, we accept them with alacrity, with enthusiasm, with excitement.
We trust them, right?
Yes. We are people we trust people.
We are kind. Yes, it's our kindness and our goodness. Yes. That's what caused.
Yes, we are so kind. So that's why you see that we also fought back, and our gods and goddesses stood by us. But we had a lot of work.
Like in the Mau Mau, right? We didn't have specialized. Yeah, those are my ancestors. They didn't have. Yeah, they didn't have a lot of weapons or sophisticated weapons, but we won, didn't we? Right. So those are our gods helping us. They relied on our gods. you know?
What about in Ethiopia, the Adwa War, that we defeated the Italians? It was our gods. We even defeated the Hyksos. When they came, they ruled us for 108 years in Egypt, a part of Egypt. But at the end of the day, we defeated them. Okay, these are people, these people who are asking this question, their problem is that they don't have time to read history.
Why do they fear that we are powerful? Like, why do black people fear that we are powerful? Why don't they want to get that?
Or why did the Europeans fear that we are powerful? Or why did
No. Some of our own people, they fear our own power. That's the thing, Ebenezer. So that's why they're asking those questions. That's why they don't want to hear, some of them, not all. Right now, people are waking up, which is definitely a good thing.
I think religion is a major factor why they are scared. Religion puts you in fear. It puts you in bondage. When you feel that this thing is not in line with your religion, you get scared. You call it diabolic. If we tell our presidents in Africa today to swear by our gods and goddesses, they will be scared. But they want to swear by the Bible and the Quran because they know that those things are powerless. It will not do anything to them. So when you see somebody following the line of our ancestors, they will call you a native doctor. They will call you a herbalist. They will call you names and they will be scared of you because they know that is the truth. People are scared of the truth, but they want to run to the lie. Okay, so Christianity, Islam, this foreign religion has made them to believe that anything from African spirituality is diabolic, is witchcraft, is black magic. So they are scared of it because they have been brainwashed to believe, they have been made to demonize the tradition of their African ancestors.
Wow.
Okay.
And if you don't have the backing of your ancestors, you're on your own, right?
Of course. I don't need to go to church to believe that I'll be favored by the European god known as Yahweh. Who is Yahweh? Yahweh is Zeus. Who is Zeus? Zeus was copied from Amen-Ra in Egypt. They all copied it from African spirituality, from my ancestors. Okay? They all copied it from my ancestors. The story of Jesus was copied from my ancestors, Horus or Heru. The story of Mary was copied from my ancestors, known as Isis, the black woman that was worshipped in Europe by European women.
Ebenezer, they also have the Black Madonna that we never get to see in most of the parts of Europe, but they are hidden in there.
Isis. That's Isis. That's Isis. Isis and her child Horus.
Yeah,
they were worshipped by
European. Have them hidden in their cabinets and stuff, right? Yeah. In Europe and stuff.
A professor from Senegal, late Cheikh Anta Diop, he wrote a very powerful book, Civilization or Barbarism. He said that if you go to the Vatican, to the Catholic Church, the Vatican City, if you go underground, you're going to see the Black Madonna. The Pope of the Catholic Church go to the Black Madonna. He knelt down to the Black Madonna to kiss the feet of this black woman.
And there was also another video going around of the Pope kissing the feet of the Sudanese elders or something. Did you
saw that video? Yes, I saw that video. He knelt. I think
so. They're not questioning what's going on there. Sorry,
was that the Sudanese president?
I think they must have been royal or something, from the royal line or something, or they know. We don't know the truth.
These people. There is something they know about us that we don't know about ourselves.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
There is something they know about us. That's why they are making us to be distracted. They don't want us to know our history, so they do everything to make us to be distracted on social media. You see these things.
Why would Pope, the biggest figure in Christianity, bow to African men, right? And this happened just, it's a year ago. Was it 1 year ago or a few years ago, right?
I think that was 2 years ago.
Yeah, and that video was going around and nobody's questioning it.
They know that black is the most powerful color in the world, and all human beings came from black. Even Queen Elizabeth, before she died, she said her ancestors are black. I'm talking about Queen Elizabeth II. She said our ancestors are black. All human beings now living on it came from you, the black woman, and came from me, the black man.
So Ebenezer, what would you say is the solution now? What's the way forward? There's a big awakening obviously happening thanks to people like you who have been fearlessly sharing this information. So what would you say is the way forward for us as African?
Okay, we cannot depend on our education system to help us because we know that they are colonial system. Their curriculum is colonially oriented. We are going to depend on ourselves as individuals who are awakened, who are enlightened, using our platform, using our write-ups, using our videos and our contents to wake up the dying soul of the black man and the black woman, to wake up from their deep slumber, to understand that this is the truth, this is the line, this is the path that their ancestors followed and they should follow. I think we have to educate our people individually, just like you're doing on your page. You're doing a wonderful work. I can see on your page. You're doing a wonderful work, black woman. You are. Okay, you're really waking up our people all over Africa, and it's something that is very sacrosanct. And it is people like you that are supposed to have the likes and the views. But because we are distracted, we give the likes and the views to the comedians, to the entertainers. But this is the most important thing that we need right now as black people. We are in the age of awakening.
I feel that we have an opportunity now to free ourselves. It's only a choice. You have to make the choice whether you want to be free or not. This is the time now for us, right?
You're right. You're right. But the problem is that there is a deep distraction. We are distracted. That is the only thing. And there is a deliberate attempt to make the African economy to remain poor so that people will not think of these things we are teaching. They will think of how to solve their problems, their bills, how to pay their bills. So when you teach this kind of thing to some persons, they will see it as boring. Are you aware?
Yeah.
It's very boring. These are people who went to school. But when you teach them these things, they will not grab what you're saying.
Yeah, but Ebenezer, even the schools were on purpose because we went to school from a very young age and for many, many, many years. And have you heard of something called brain rot at the moment? There's something going around called brain rot. And I feel that's exactly what happened to us. They were rotting our brains, you know, because unless you're going to be a doctor, unless you're going to be using that education as a skill, then I don't see why you should be learning all these different things. Everybody should have learned what they're good at and, you know, gain the skill that they are good at, right? Ebenezer, what do you think?
Sure. You say what?
We all have what we are good at, right? Ebenezer, we all have a gifting. We all come in with a gift and a skill, right? You're very good with your videos and teaching people. That is what you should have focused on when in school. But instead, when you went to school, you are learning different things that were just not only wasting your time, it's just exhausting. You know,
very
that's
exhausting.
why right now people find it exhausting, you know, because already they've been in school for so many years. It's boring, you know?
Yes. You know, when I was in school, I was never taught any of these things that we are learning today or any of these things that I'm saying. Okay, I was in school for 4 years. I read political science. They only taught me about government, state, and politics. I have friends who are in history department. Now, when I ask them questions about African history, okay, they don't even know. They don't even know who is Akhenaten, who is Quincy, who is Hatshepsut. Okay.
Because the education system was colonized as well, right? It was about, you know, whitewashing everything and making us believe that they were everything. They invented everything. And, you know, they're good people and everything. But it's not true, you know?
You're right. You're right. But the thing is that, as I said earlier, the educational system cannot give us the awakening and the change that we want. It's we as individuals that will bring about this change. You, me, and other people who are passionate about what you are doing that will bring about the change. That's the simple truth. And if we keep doing it consistently without getting distracted, we are going to achieve that purpose of awakening, of liberating our people.
Thank you, now, guys.
What we are doing is what I call intellectual revolution. An intellectual revolution. Now, by the time we achieve 100% of the intellectual revolution, we are going to bring the intellectual revolution from our brain down to our hand and materialize it and bring about the actual revolution.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. So guys, if you have any question for Ebenezer, oh my God, you've been so amazing. You are born to teach. And it's amazing. You know, a lot of people pay a lot of money to go to these lectures, you know, in universities, these big events and everything, but you can't get such kind of information that is so empowering, right? So I think people are underestimating what's happening here, and the kind of information you're sharing, you know, is in-depth, researched, well-researched, dated, right? The problem with our people is if a Caucasian is right here and is giving the same kind of information, people will believe,
Exactly.
Ebenezer. People will
Exactly.
believe, you know, but because it's you, they are just taking it for granted.
Of
However, the
course.
good news is a lot of people are waking up. Yeah, that is the good news. So do not
You
give
know,
up.
they have told our people that anything black is not original. Anything white is original. That is to say, anything black is from the devil and anything white is from God. That's why I say our people, they want to bleach their skin. They want to be like the white people. You know, our people, they want to believe, they believe that when a black man is telling this truth, he is lying. But if a white man is telling this truth, okay, if a white man is the one saying this thing, he's right. So that's why they
Exactly.
have this nonchalant attitude towards we that are black people teaching this truth.
Yeah, and we have to treat each other better, you know. If you want to be treated better, then you have to treat your black sister and your black brother better, because we are each other, you know. So there's a question here, guys. Just ask your questions because we're about to end this live. Feel free to ask. Appreciate our guest. He's been amazing. You've been given so much information today that is so empowering, right? There's so many lives going on TikTok, but where are you going to get this kind of information about your history? Nobody is going to tell you the truth about your history. No one is going to
Sure.
tell you the truth about who you are because they do not want you to know who you are. Because when you know who you are, then you become more empowered and you're able to manifest
Exactly.
whatever it is that you want to manifest. You realize you're that powerful.
Sure.
So the question is, when did you first became to the realization that you are awakening?
Okay, this is a very deep one. Actually, from my own experience, when I left the university, when I was in my final year writing my project was when I started my process of awakening. What happened was that I was on Facebook. I saw a video on Facebook where an American police dog was biting a black American man. He was accused of stealing something, a crime. You know, this is the American dog. So I was captivated by that event. I asked myself, does it mean that black people have never done anything great in antiquity? Does it mean that we have not achieved anything great in antiquity? Does it mean that we're bad people? Does it mean that everything black is evil? The racism in America, it was the racism in America that motivated me into this awakening. So, you know, here in Africa, we are not seeing racism, right? It's only when you travel as a black man to other white
I
countries.
did experience racism when I went to Africa, and you will experience it more. Yeah, you will not in just normal everyday life. If you
Okay.
go to these tourist places, they treat them better, and I had to.
Like where?
So, for example, there's this house. Do you know in Karen, right? It's named after a woman in Kenya. This is in Nairobi. Karen Blixen, right? House, right? He's this old Caucasian that had a big estate, right, in Nairobi,
Okay.
and then the house was made a museum, right? So I remember just standing there with my family, and then the Caucasians just came and they were just welcomed nicely, and they were given interpreters, they were given tours, you know, and I'm just there, just standing there and waiting and just saying, okay, you know, am I going to also get somebody? They said, no, we don't have anybody else available. So when you go to these places, they do discriminate you, which is very, very sad because they don't have that awareness that they're even doing it, if that makes sense.
Okay, so okay, but actually, here in Nigeria, I've actually not experienced any of it. But
Nigerians are more self-aware, you know.
yes,
I
generally,
feel they're much more self-aware.
the kind of racism I'm talking about is you going abroad to white countries as a black person, white countries to see how they treat black people. That was how I started my awakening. Okay,
Ah,
that's what
okay,
I'm
I see
saying.
what you mean. Okay.
So when I saw this racism online, how they treat black people in America, in Europe, okay, I felt so bad, and that was when I started looking at ways to know if my ancestors have contributed to world civilization. I started with looking at the lectures of people like Dr. Ben Jokanan, Dr. Yusuf Ben Jokanan, a great black American who is from Ethiopia, and another man who used French to speak. His name is Cheikh Anta Diop. People like Ivan Van Satima. Some of those books I sent to you, the authors, I was listening to their teachings and their lectures. From there, I came to understand that the Africans have contributed immensely towards civilization. And that was how my awakening started. So I had to go to the courts to add a native name and my ancestral name to my English and Hebrew names. Okay. I had to go and do that. So the Ebenezer you're seeing here is a Hebrew name. Actually, it means stone of help. But I had to add another name named Aches. Okay, Aches is my ancestral local name, but you cannot see it online. It's in all my documents now. Why the Heru that you're seeing is just a name that I got from my spirituality in Egyptian teachings, okay, in Kemetic teachings. Heru is from Egypt. That is
Absolutely.
Horus.
Yeah,
Yes. So
absolutely.
that's just it. There was nothing much on it. I was just motivated by the racism in America and in Europe, and I started asking questions if black people have contributed immensely towards civilization. Unfortunately, my black ancestors have contributed. So I started seeing the lies. I started seeing the demonization of our cultures, okay, of our ancestors, okay. So I was motivated to go into the teaching and the awakening of my people to understand that our people have contributed towards civilization. And
Okay.
these religions were all invented from our spirituality.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Absolutely. So Ebenezer, how can we support your work?
I
I know you've asked me not to ask that, but yeah, just briefly.
okay. Okay, I have a book, volume 1 and volume 2, The Untold History of the Black Race and the Fall of African Civilization. It was a book I completed in 2021. Okay, 2021. I finished the book and I published it. Although right now I have not been able to print in hard copy. I have printed in hard copy before. Then it was cheaper, but now it's very expensive because of paper and ink in Nigeria. So I've not been able to print, but I know I'm going to do that soon in the future. I'm going to do that.
We
So, but
can't
for
wait.
now, I've not. And right now, what I need is just for a way to print it because people believe more in hard copies than soft copies, something they can have in their hands like that. So the book is very interesting. It's a book that will open your eyes to know how great our ancestors were in antiquity and what led to the collapse of our civilization and what we have become today. Okay. So
Absolutely.
it's just about the study of our past, our present, and our future.
And how can we get hold of you? How, if we, for example, want one of your books?
Okay. If you send a message to my inbox on TikTok, I'm going to let you know how you're going to get it. Okay. That's as simple as that. So just like the way you know how you came and you got yours, you send a message to my inbox that you want to get a copy of this book, then I will tell you the processes that you can use to get it. Then you're going to get it in less than 5 minutes or 10 minutes.
Absolutely. Yeah, you are very fast. I actually have the books and I'm going through them right now. So in 2026, it's gonna be about relearning my history, right? Absolutely. So thank you
And
so much.
Diaspora daughter, please, I have to also acknowledge your work. Honestly speaking, you know, I have never clicked on your page. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's fine.
It was yesterday. I clicked on your page. I was like, I was like, wow, she's doing something great. Wow, she's also in the process, you know. I saw your followers. I was like, she has over 20,000 followers. I think I was like looking at it. Like, yeah, over 20,000 followers. Wow, she's trying. She's doing something great. And I was excited, you know, to see a woman in this generation who is knowledgeable like you, to be so have this fire burning inside of you to teach our history, because a lot of our women today, they are into a lot of nefarious things. They don't have this enthusiasm, this passion to do these things that you're doing. They can't do it, okay, because they are distracted. But I want to say thank you so much for having me here, and I'm so much grateful, madam. Thank you so much.
So when are we gonna come to your events? Because we need events to be able to learn these things. Your seminars.
You mean online?
No, it doesn't have to be online. It can be online if you want, but yeah, I think physical events as well.
You know, there was a time that was 2022. I was attacked, you know, because I used to show my face. I used to show my face. I was attacked and I was abused. I was molested. Like when I say molested, like I was like confronted physically, physical attack.
Yeah.
You know, because of the things I teach. So for the meantime, I won't be having all those events until maybe I'm out of the country to a more secure place where I'll be protected, because these things that we teach, it can take someone's life. You and I know what we are talking about.
Yeah,
so that's why
very sad. It's very, very sad.
And I probably believe you're in a place where we have security and we have, you know, surveillance.
Absolutely.
But here we don't have those things because I'm still living in a third world country. So my life is very important. So that's why it's not like I am scared of what I'm teaching, but I have to also protect my life.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that because I have to be alive to teach.
Absolutely.
You understand? Absolutely. So that's why I'm in this kind of mood. But when that time comes, I am going to let you know as my friend, and you're going to tell your followers and your viewers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm just, on behalf of us as Africans, I'm just so sorry that you have to go through that. You're our brother, and you have the right to tell our history. So I'm very sorry for that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, madam. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I'm gonna call it a day now. Thank you so much. It's been so amazing, very impactful. And we really appreciate you. We appreciate your work as well. Okay.
I'm grateful. Thank you so much. I appreciate.
Okay. Much love.
I'll be glad to.
Go on.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Much love, and like, share. I'm gonna download this on YouTube as well if you missed it. So make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kimfire. Thank you, JPs. Bye-bye.